Immigration was a pivotal issue driving the U.S. presidential race. Now for President Trump, it's time to go from promises to policy. Do we build the wall? Expel all illegal immigrants? Those same issues were part of the recent French presidential election. When Scott Thuman was there covering the big race, he found a small town taking policy into its own hands.
From a hilltop just outside of town, Beaumont looks like your average blue-collar village. But this French faction of the country's Rust Belt has faced more than its fair share of struggles. People's optimism had been replaced with piles of slag from closed-up coal mines.
People are jaded from all these promises that haven't been fulfilled. There was a catastrophic deficit here. We were paying exorbitant taxes.
The language is different. The scene and complaints, the same as you'd find in coal country Pennsylvania.
My father was in the coal mine, and that's the way I supported my family.
Or cattle country in Texas.
I want to get the trade between the countries fixed.
In all, economies tanked, jobs dried up, and so did people's hope. Christopher Zurek is the deputy mayor of Beaumont.
As you can tell, it's quite poor. A huge unemployment rate. And
How big is the unemployment rate here?
20%.
20%. After years of struggle, the town is now rebounding, sprucing up, building. The success, some say, rests upon a controversial new notion. This has been dubbed a town without immigrants.
Should people be allowed to wear burqas? Should they be allowed to wear yarmulkes in public?
I don't think, because we have a strong belief in secularism. In public life, we should only see what gathers us, not what divides us.
Last year, the town rallied support to form the Town Without Immigrants Association, a stand against taking in any refugees from Europe's overwhelming migrant crisis, as the country's massive jungle refugee camp once sat just an hour away. The winds of change arrived via a political push that mirrors, to some degree, what's happened in Middle America towns across the United States, where people chose populism and protectionism in hopes of reviving the economy.
It's got to start somewhere. The taxpayers, the blue collar, the working people cannot continue to support 2/3 of the world.
Calls for figurative walls in Beaumont have come from the National Front Party, which now dominates the region.
It was a time where France got a lot of work to give, as it's not the case anymore. We denounce immigration now, but we don't denounce the people, we denounce the politics.
And not just about jobs. France has fundamentally changed since the attacks. There, Friday, November 13th. Daniel Vaissier is a retired craftsman.
Those who don't want to integrate, we keep out, and that's it. Look at what happened in Paris. A Friday evening, people were just sitting with friends on the patio or at the Bataclan Theatre, and they were shot. No, that's not acceptable. Something must be done.
The reality of terrorism created a fertile ground for divisive politics, and human rights activist Marine Tondelier says anyone opposing the immigrant-free platform found life here untenable.
Everyone knows that immigrants are not welcome here?
Yes. If you want to come to France and you're immigrants, you don't go to Front National City.
An irony considering the town's origin.
It has no sense here to say this, because we were calling people from the abroad to make the coal mines work. So it's not
in a town that was built on immigrants.
Yes.
It's difficult
and by immigrants.
And by immigrants in the coal mines here. You're saying it's difficult then to suddenly say, we don't need them, we don't want them, they're not welcome.
Yes.
While the National Front lost the national election, they are hardly giving up. And just as Beaumont survived Roman and Norman invasions over the centuries, change happens.
Maybe in 10 years we won't be still being seen as devil, you know.
Seen as the devil.
That's it.
So the theory is without immigrants, there are more jobs for the locals, and that's more prosperous for them?
Well, on the one hand, when you have a 20% unemployment rate, there would be fewer people competing for a handful of jobs. However, on the flip side, we also saw a lot of shuttered storefronts, and if those immigrants were welcomed, they would be consumers. Perhaps they'd keep some of those businesses afloat.
Fascinating. Thanks a lot, Scott.